One drama, one viral edit, one perfect character. And suddenly, a new star is everywhere. But the real question is never who rises fast. It is who stays untouchable when the entire industry is watching. Because in a market as massive and competitive as China, being popular is easy to lose. Trends move brutally fast. Audiences switch just as quickly. New faces appear every year, louder, younger, sharper. And yet, some men don't fall. They don't chase the spotlight. The spotlight keeps finding them. And right now, if you strip everything down to pure A-list dominance, 3 names refuse to leave the top: Xiao Zhan, Wang Yibo, Yang. One commands unmatched fandom power. One dominates with brand empire and versatility. One carries classic leading man perfection that never fades. 3 different kings, 3 different definitions of stardom. 3 men the industry cannot afford to ignore. But when the debate turns serious, who is truly the most powerful A-list actor in China right now? The most misleading thing about rankings like this is that people often treat all fame as if it works the same way. It does not, especially not in China. Because in an industry this massive, an A-list actor is not just someone with a hit drama or a loyal fan base. Real top-tier power is more complex than that. It has to survive traffic star competition, platform wars, commercial pressure, public scrutiny, and an audience that moves at terrifying speed. A truly dominant actor is not just loved. He is structurally important. That is exactly why Xiao Zhan, Wang Yibo, and Yang make such a dangerous top 3. All 3 are huge, but each one stands at the summit through a completely different kind of force. Xiao Zhan represents emotional fandom power turned into mainstream commercial gravity. His rise through the Untamed changed his scale permanently, and his name kept carrying weight afterward through projects with huge viewership and unusually strong fan economy pull. His 2024 physical release. We reportedly generated over RMB 50 million in sales within minutes and became the best-selling release on TME's physical album chart, which says a lot about how quickly his audience can still convert attention into revenue. Wang Yibo represents cross-industry power. He is not just an actor, but also a singer, dancer, racer, and highly marketable celebrity whose fame stretches across entertainment lanes. His profile still identifies him as one of China's most commercially visible stars, with major acting credits, a solo music identity, and a Forbes China Celebrity 100 ranking as high as number 2 in 2021. And Yang represents the classic leading man model of A-list dominance. He is one of the original major traffic stars, a name so deeply embedded in Chinese popular entertainment that his face alone still signals scale, familiarity, and star image. His profile explicitly identifies him as one of the big 4 traffic stars and ties him to some of the most viewed modern drama successes of the last decade. So this ranking is not about who was once hot. It is about who still feels too big to ignore. To judge that, we have to look at 4 things: fame, commercial power, industry weight, and present tense relevance. Because in Chinese entertainment, the highest level of stardom is not just visibility, it is the power to make the entire market react when your name moves. If there is one name in this ranking that feels like fan power turned into something much bigger, something closer to a market force, it is Xiao Zhan. What makes Xiao Zhan so overwhelming is that his fame does not behave like ordinary popularity. It does not just sit there and look impressive. It moves. It converts. It turns attention into sales, discussion into platform pressure, and emotional loyalty into a kind of commercial gravity that very few actors in China can match. That is what makes him so dangerous in a conversation about A-list dominance. He is not simply loved. He is activated by the audience in a way the market can feel immediately. And that is exactly why his power feels so structural. Because once an actor reaches the point where his fandom can generate revenue at extraordinary speed, his influence stops being a soft, abstract thing. It becomes measurable. It becomes something advertisers, platforms, producers, and investors all have to take seriously. Xiao Zhan crossed that threshold long ago, but the key reason he belongs so high in this ranking is that he still has not fallen back below it. Even in late 2024, his first physical music album, We reportedly exceeded RMB 50 million in sales within just 4 minutes of release and went on to top the TME physical album sales chart, where it is listed as the best-selling album of all time on that chart. That is not just star power. That is audience mobilization at a scale few people can duplicate. And what makes this especially important is that Xiao Zhan's strength is not limited to one lane. He is not just an actor with a famous drama behind him. He is not just a singer with an unusually intense fan base. He exists at the center of a fandom economy powerful enough to feed both. That dual strength matters because it means his name carries value even when the conversation changes shape. If the industry is talking about acting, he matters. If the industry is talking about music sales, he matters. If the industry is talking about who can still generate immediate consumer response, he matters. And when one person can stay central across all of those conversations, that is a very specific kind of A-list authority. There is also something else that makes Xiao Zhan particularly formidable: emotional intensity at scale. Some stars are big because they are widely liked. Xiao Zhan is big because he is intensely defended, intensely followed, and intensely monetized by his audience. That kind of attachment is not always the same as broad mainstream affection, but in the Chinese entertainment economy, it can be just as powerful, sometimes more. It creates a degree of momentum that is difficult for the market to ignore because the response is so fast and so visible. That is why even years after his original breakout, his name still feels loaded. Not just with recognition, but with consequence. When Xiao Zhan moves, the industry notices, and that is where Xiao Zhan becomes extremely hard to beat. Because among Chinese male A-list stars, there are actors with broader crossover polish, and there are stars with more diversified public images. But few of them can match the sheer force of Xiao Zhan's audience economy when it becomes active. His fame is not only large, it is commercially explosive. And in a market where influence is often proven by conversion, that makes him one of the most dangerous names in the entire field. That is why Xiao Zhan is such a serious contender for number one. He represents Chinese A-list stardom at its most concentrated and reactive, the actor whose fan-driven power still has the ability to behave like market pressure, not just admiration. And once a star reaches that level, he is no longer simply popular. He becomes a force the industry has to build around. If Xiao Zhan feels like fan power turned into market force, then Wang Yibo feels like something even broader, a brand that exists across industries at the same time. What makes Wang Yibo so difficult to compete with is that his influence does not sit in one space long enough to be contained. Acting alone would already make him a top-tier name. Music alone would still keep him visible. But when you add dance, racing, variety presence, and an unusually strong commercial portfolio, his star power starts to behave differently. It stops being tied to one lane of success and becomes something closer to a multi-system presence. That is exactly why his position in the industry feels so secure. Because while some stars dominate when they have a hit project, Wang Yibo remains active even when the conversation shifts. If the industry leans toward dramas, he is there. If it leans toward film, he is there. If the focus moves to brand campaigns, endorsements, or youth culture influence, he is still there. That kind of consistency across different sectors is extremely difficult to maintain, and it is one of the clearest signs of real A-list durability. His profile reflects that scale clearly. Wang Yibo has been ranked as high as No. 2 on the Forbes China Celebrity 100, which already places him among the most commercially valuable figures in the entire industry. But what matters more than the number itself is what it represents. A star whose name translates into visibility, endorsement power, and sustained public attention across multiple markets at once. And Wikipedia.org. And that is where Wang Yibo becomes especially dangerous in this ranking. Because if Xiao Zhan represents concentrated fan-driven force, Wang Yibo represents distribution of influence. His power is spread out, across brands, across industries, across audiences, which makes it less explosive in one moment, but more stable over time. He does not rely on a single wave of attention. He generates continuous presence. And in a market as fast-moving as China's, that kind of stability can be just as powerful as sudden impact. There is also something else working strongly in his favor: versatility without losing identity. Some multi-talented stars end up feeling diluted because they spread themselves too thin. Wang Yibo avoids that. No matter what space he enters, he still feels like himself. Whether he is acting, performing, competing in racing, or appearing in campaigns, the core image remains intact. Cool, controlled, slightly distant, but unmistakably charismatic. That consistency allows his brand to expand without breaking. And that is why his commercial value remains so high. Because brands do not just look for popularity. They look for reliability, a face that can represent them across different audiences without losing appeal. Wang Yibo has become exactly that kind of figure. His image travels well, adapts well, and most importantly, sells well. That is why Wang Yibo belongs so high in this top 3. He represents Chinese A-list power at its most diversified, the star whose influence does not spike in one direction, but spreads across the entire industry. He is not just present, he is everywhere. If Xiao Zhan feels like fan economy power and Wang Yibo feels like cross-industry brand dominance, then Yang Yang feels like something more classic, and because of that, more dangerous in the long run. The leading man image that never really goes out of demand. What makes Yang Yang so formidable is that his power is built on familiarity at the highest level. He is not only a star people know, he is a star people instantly understand. The face, the posture, the tone, the way he is framed on a poster, everything about him fits the idea of a major Chinese male lead so naturally that his image has become almost architectural inside mainstream entertainment. His profile explicitly identifies him as one of China's original Big Four traffic stars, and that matters because it tells you he was not simply one popular actor among many. He was part of the template that defined a whole era of top-tier visibility. And that kind of history matters more than people admit, because in a market as brutal as China's, stars rise constantly. Newer faces appear every year with louder fandoms, younger demographics, or sharper short-term buzz. But the actors who last are often the ones whose image is simple enough to be legible at a mass level and strong enough to survive trend rotation. Yang Yang has that exact kind of image. He looks like scale. He looks like center. He looks like the actor who belongs at the top of a project before the synopsis even has a chance to explain why. That is one of the reasons his fame lasts so well. His dominance may not always feel as aggressively activated as Xiao Zhan's fandom force, and it may not spread through as many lanes as Wang Yibo's brand ecosystem, but Yang Yang has something just as powerful: mainstream leading man permanence. He is the kind of actor audiences and platforms can return to again and again because his image still signals star value in the clearest possible way. That is not a small thing. In fact, it may be one of the hardest forms of power to maintain because it depends on visual myth, mass recognition, and a face that still carries narrative authority even after years at the top. There is also a deeper reason Yang Yang remains so strong in this conversation. He represents a version of Chinese stardom that still feels aspirational in the old, almost idealized sense. With him, star power does not depend only on intensity or commercial conversion. It depends on polish, on the feeling that he is still one of the clearest embodiments of what a first-tier male star is supposed to look like. That kind of symbolic clarity keeps him powerful even when the market gets noisier around him. He does not need to reinvent the category every year. In many ways, he already helped define it. And that is exactly why Yang Yang belongs in this top 3. He represents Chinese A-list power at its most classically durable, the star whose face remains commercially legible, broadly recognizable, and permanently castable as a top male lead. He may not feel like the most explosive force in the room, but he still feels like one of the men the room was built for. So now we get to the part that always starts a war. Because once you put Xiao Zhan, Wang Yibo, and Yang Yang in the same conversation, the debate stops being simple almost immediately. All 3 are massive. All 3 have real A-list weight. All 3 can still make the industry react the moment their names move. But they do not dominate from the same throne. And that is exactly why this ranking matters. With Yang Yang, the power is permanence. He represents the version of Chinese male stardom that still looks correct, no matter how many trends rise around it. His face still reads like a leading man. His image still carries polish, center, scale, and that almost architectural kind of star value that feels built into mainstream entertainment itself. He is not the loudest force in this lineup, and that is part of what makes him so durable. He does not need to explode every time. He only needs to remain legible as top tier. And he does. In a market where attention gets younger and faster every year, that kind of continuity is a serious form of power. But compared with the 2 men above him, Yang Yang's dominance feels more classical than disruptive. It lasts beautifully, but it does not always press on the market with the same immediate force. With Wang Yibo, the power is spread. He is the star who seems to exist in too many important places at once to be reduced to one lane of fame. Acting, music, performance, fashion, racing, branding, his influence keeps multiplying because his image travels well between industries without losing shape. That is what makes him so commercially dangerous. He does not need one role, one genre, or one comeback cycle to stay relevant. He can move through different systems and keep converting attention into value. In some ways, that makes him the most modern kind of A-list star in this ranking. Not just a celebrity, but an ecosystem. And if this list were based purely on diversification of power, he would be almost impossible to beat. But when all of these forms of dominance are placed side by side, Xiao Zhan still feels like the strongest answer. Because among these 3, he most fully embodies what happens when star power stops being passive and starts behaving like pressure. That is the difference that puts him on top. Yang Yang may be the most classically durable. Wang Yibo may be the most cross-industrially powerful. But Xiao Zhan feels like the actor whose audience force still hits the market with the greatest intensity. His name does not just attract admiration, it triggers response. Fast response, commercial response, emotional response. His scale is not only broad, it is activated. And in the current Chinese entertainment system, that matters enormously. Because real A-list dominance is not just about being known. It is about making the entire machine react when you move. That is why Xiao Zhan rises above the others here. He represents Chinese top-tier stardom at its most concentrated and most combustible, the kind of fame that can turn attention into revenue, conversation into pressure, and personal image into industry consequence. That does not make Wang Yibo smaller. It does not make Yang Yang less iconic. It simply means that right now, Xiao Zhan feels like the hardest force to ignore when the conversation becomes fully serious. And maybe that is the real point of this top 3. Yang Yang shows what lasting leading man mythology looks like. Wang Yibo shows what modern multi-system power looks like. Xiao Zhan shows what happens when fandom, commerce, and celebrity intensity become one engine. 3 kings, 3 different systems of domination. But only one name that right now feels like the most overwhelming expression of Chinese A-list male star power. And that is why, in the end, Xiao Zhan stands at the top.